church family. Another year older in the Lord, whether it's our birthday or whether it's just another year as it is in 2017. And so we should be what? Closer to God, marking time with God, or further from God? Or none of the above? That's the kind of test I used to say. None of these. You would think that as we get to know Him better, we should be what? Closer. How many of you have noticed, though, that as we get older, we have more things to worry about? We have more people. We have their problems. I thought when my kids got 18 that done, you know, and I just watch them grow and love it. Well, actually, their problems get more complicated and more to pray for. And things like that happen. And if we're not careful, what happens to our relationship with God when we're so busy taking care of those important relationships that are around us? Well, sometimes God can move away from our relationship. Who do I need the most to help me with these important issues in my life? They're all bigger than I am, so I need somebody who's bigger than they are. Amen? And who offered Himself and said that He would never leave me or forsake me. And gave me answers for when that day comes. It's God. Look what it says in 2 Corinthians chapter 6. As God's partners, this is the New Living Translation, I like how it says it, as God's partners. Isn't that amazing? God chooses us to be partners. Remember when He said that we could share in His yoke? And if you're old enough to remember what a yoke was, well, I'm not talking about the thing in the egg, but the two oxen were under. And it was a tool used to pull the trailers with. He said, but we could share in His yoke, partners. And so He says that we can be partners. He said, we beg you not to accept the marvelous gift of God's kindness and then ignore it. Can we get saved and act like we get over it? I didn't say we get over it, but can we act like we've done that? That's not that big a thing in our lives anymore. How long does salvation last? For eternity. And the more we're aware of it, the sweeter it should be to us. Amen? The more that we recognize that no matter what these mountains of problems we're going through, we've got something that beats all of that. And we can pass it on so that others can beat all of that too, and pass that on to their kids and their kids and their kids. What happens if we skip generations? How many people don't get the good news that we win? Not in the end. If you've made Jesus Lord of your life, you've already won. You're just finishing out your mission on earth. And we do that to help more get there. So we want to be very, very careful with that. Now, God says this, at just the right time I heard you. On the day of salvation, I helped you. Indeed, the right time is now. Today is the day of salvation. Today is the day of salvation. What does salvation mean? Salvation is, I like the analogy of this, like the word salvage. We kind of glorify it with wonderful names like Salvation or Salvation Army. But the truth is, salvage is part of that root word. And so if something has been sunk or junked, and it's laying there, and it's useless, and it's going to destruction, the one who offers it salvation goes and picks it up, and because it can't pick itself up anymore, and brings it to a place of usefulness, and in some cases better than it ever was. And I can tell you, for Christians, it's better than it ever was. Right? And so it is an amazing thing that God offers. And it says today is the day. And the reason I bring this out is, sure, it's January 1st, 2017, but the truth is, it's just one day on the calendar. Right? It's just one day. And most of us think we've got many more. We may not, but most of us think we've got many more. So it's just another day. And if we're not careful, what will we do with just another day? We'll just let it pass. No big deal. It's just a day. And so I looked in some of the scripture and listen to this. This is in Luke chapter 5. It says, now it happened on a certain day, just another day, He, Jesus, was teaching, and that there were Pharisees and teachers of the law sitting by who had come out of every town of Galilee, Judea, Jerusalem, and the power of the Lord was present to heal them. And behold, men brought on a bed a man who was paralyzed, whom they had sought to bring in and lay before him. And when they could not find how to bring him in because of the crowd, they went up on the housetop and let him down with his bed through the tiling in the midst before Jesus. How many of y'all heard this story before? Sure you have. Let's pray and let's look at it again with the ideas of the day. Heavenly Father, thank you for loving us. We pray, Father, that you will anoint, Lord, the words that go out. Lord, that whatever I say, your Holy Spirit will speak to each of us and bring us to the place of knowing where we are with you and where we can be and what the purpose we can have. And Lord, that we can learn to choose the joy that you have for us instead of letting the circumstances of this life tear us down and stop us from helping other people find what salvation is all about. So I pray, Father, against the enemy, against his interference. I pray against anything that slows down your love and your word from going forward today. I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. How did that man on that pallet wake up that morning? How did he wake up? Paralyzed. In fact, we don't even know that he woke up because there's nothing in there until after he's lowered through the roof that says he was even conscious. And if he was paralyzed, apparently he'd been paralyzed for a while. And so, what was his expectations of the day? Did they have a surgery scheduled that day? Did they have x-rays and CAT scans and all those things to say, hey, we can do this and this is going to be fixed and it's going to be wonderful? Or there's hope. Did they have any of that going on? They didn't have any of it. I'll tell you what he had some friends that loved him. How do you know that they loved him? Yeah, they bore his burdens. In fact, he was the burden, wasn't he? And listen, when you put somebody else's needs against your comfort, how many of you would like to be carrying people around town? Literally carrying, or literally carrying, right? And then when you get there, how much did they love him? Can't go in today. It's too crowded. Let's come back on a day. You know, we can let today go by. It's just another day. We can let today go by and catch Jesus when he's not so crowded. How much did they love him? Were they going to let that obstacle slow them down? No. In fact, they go on and they're fixing to tear through somebody's roof. What do you think? Do you think that that person might have legal recourse against them at the end of that day? How much did they love their friend? They were not going to let that stop them, were they? And was there a guarantee if they got him there that he would be okay? There was no guarantee. But on the chance of helping their friend, what would they do? Whatever it took, within reasons. And if they broke the law, they would pay the price. Right? They would pay the price. Rosa Parks on the bus paid the price for breaking the law, sitting in the wrong seat, and brought out the absurdity of the law. She didn't get mad. She didn't get this and that. She said, no, this is not right. I'm not doing that. And so they took her to jail. And all they couldn't charge her with getting disruptive and unruly and cursing. Oh, it's a Christian woman and all. They couldn't charge her with all that. They had to charge her with sitting in the wrong seat on the bus. And it became absurd. Right? Changed everything. Well, you know, this changed everything for that day. For that day, what happened? They brought him before Jesus. And when Jesus saw their faith, he said, man, your sins have been forgiven. We don't know that his sins put him on that pallet, on that mat. We don't know that his sins caused him to be sick. We know sin brought sickness and death into the world, but we don't know if he'd done anything later. We may look at somebody who's, Jesus said it wasn't his sin that God made him blind. He was that way from birth, and God's going to use that, and we'll see what happens after that. Okay? He says, your sins have been forgiven you. Now remember, you had a big audience of people, religious auditors. We can find religious auditors everywhere, can't we? Well, you know, he kind of preached the word, but he didn't bow at the right time. He didn't do the right thing off. He sang off key. He did whatever it is. And so we get these religious auditors. And I saw him the other day, or her, and he did this or she did that. Does God need tattletales? Does God need religious auditors? No. God is everywhere, all at once. He's omnipresent. He's got all that. Jesus himself didn't come into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him would be saved. So our job is not to go around finding everybody who's doing wrong and report it to God. Now, if you see somebody in a weak state, report it in what way? In a ministry way. God, praying for them. They've gotten away from you, and I know that's not their best bet. I'm not praying against them. We're praying what? farther, a whole different place. Edify, build up. He saw their faith, and he said, man, your sins are forgiven. And the religious auditors, the scribes, and the Pharisees began to reason, saying, who is this guy who speaks blasphemies? Who can forgive sins but God alone? Now, we've been talking a lot about who Jesus is. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. He will be called Emmanuel, right? God with us. And so we know who Jesus is. So they're saying, only God can forgive sins. Well, who's standing there? In the flesh. The Word became flesh and dwelt among men, according to the Bible. It says, who can forgive sins but God alone? Jesus saw their thoughts, and he answered, saying, why are you reasoning in your hearts? Is it easier to say your sins are forgiven, or rise up and walk? But that you may know the Son of Man has power on earth to forgive sins, he said to the man who was paralyzed, I say to you, arise, take your bed, and go to your house. Immediately, he rose up before them, took what he had been lying about, and departed to his own house, glorifying God. Glorifying God. I love this account in Luke. It's told also in Mark and Matthew, but I love this account. Because, well, the other people around there says, man, we're seeing some strange things today. We just got up and thought it was going to be a regular day. We got this street preacher was going to come through and have a little house Bible study, but it wasn't going to be that big of a day. But this has been a huge day. It's been an amazing day. I like this version because Dr. Luke says, after these things, he went out and saw a tax collector. So my picture, I love this picture. It may not have been even on the same day, but it didn't matter. For that guy who woke up paralyzed with no expectations of the day, he wound up what? Walking. For his friends who had hope and faith in the best senses of the word, what did they get to see? God used them. And God, he says, without faith it's impossible to please God. And so God standing there saw their faith. He was so pleased that he was able to what? Help everyone around there. Now, picture this. After these things, he went out and saw a tax collector named Levi. This is Matthew. That's his other name. Remember, Simon is Peter. Levi is Matthew. Sitting there at the tax office. This would be a little booth. What do they call those little things in the middle of the mall? Kiosk. When did that word ever get started? All of a sudden it was just there. But anyway, he's got a little booth on the street. The tax, you had H&R Block and you had Levi's Tax Service right there. But back then the tax guys were not known for just good guys. They had all the power of the military behind them. And they collected what was due for the local government, the Roman government. And if they got more, that was their salary. So the more they could get, the more they made. Kind of like car sales used to be, may still be. We make this much. But if we sell it for more, we make this much, And so that was kind of going on. And I don't know if y'all noticed, but in the old days, car salesmen had bad names. Many of them did. Y'all remember Junior Samples, used car sales and all? Some of you are that old. Most of you are not, I'm sure. But anyway, jokes had been made about those kind of things. Well, the tax collector was worse because if you didn't do what they said, who would come down on you? The army. They had their own IRS, but it was with swords and shields and all that kind of stuff. And so they could make it happen. So they were not liked people. People didn't really care about it. Maybe the kiosk was more of a defense mechanism than it was a business place. But I want you to picture, he's out there in the open air in his tax booth. It's the way I love to see it. And if it was on the same day, wonderful. If not, there's another day that's happening, and it's just one day. Just one day, Levi Matthew is a tax collector. He's powerful, probably pretty lonely too. Not a whole lot of friends, in that sense. But here he is, and that's where he's at. Now, after these things, he went out and saw a tax collector named Levi sitting in his tax office. He said to him, "Follow me." Now picture that. Levi's sitting there. Little house Bible study going on down here. You can see the uproar. Remember, this is a little town, probably in Capernaum, not a big town. Been there, and you can pretty much shoot a bow and arrow from one side to the other. It's just not that big, And so sees this bunch of people go, and then he sees these guys go by carrying a guy on a pallet. And that's got to be interesting. Nobody's really wanting to do their taxes that day anyway. So can you picture him sitting at the end of the street wondering what in the world is going on at Simon Bar, whoever's house down here, you know. And then he sees them down there, and he sees them go kind of towards the door. Nothing's happening because they can't get in. The crowd's outside the door. Then go out to the outside steps and start going around carrying that pallet. I wonder what they're doing. Maybe see little dust flies. They're tearing the things, you know, the poof of dust on the top. And just picture that tax collector. Probably not into religion a whole lot. You know what I mean? A lot of people just don't want to get involved in that religious stuff. But this is going on over there. And then all of a sudden, the dust isn't flying up anymore. They might see the guys lowering with ropes. You might come over the walls around the thing. And directly after a few minutes, there's a big cheer. And out comes this guy who was carrying his pallet and walking out on his shoulder. And he's glorifying God. And he's shaking his hand and said, wow, what a day. Had no idea today was going to be like today. And can you imagine the tax collector? Probably was. Be very crowd. Wondering if they had a permit to do that. But like the Sadducees and Pharisees. Right? And so he comes back down, and here comes the street preacher, and he gets by his booth, and he says, Levi, come go with me. Follow me. That was way different than if he just walked by and said, follow me. He had what? Remember, God calls us to exercise the faith that we have. It's not blind faith. It's based on evidence. Right? This guy's been on the street. He's heard some rumors, but now he got to what? See them happen. See them happen. He saw it. And so when he says, follow me, what did Levi do? He woke up that morning, a tax collector, despised, powerful, rich, and lonely. Right? And what did he do? It says, so he left all and rose up and followed him. He left everything. He left his social position. He left his vocation. He left all of that and followed him. That morning he was there. One day is different, and he's unemployed. But it's a day that made all the difference in his life. How many of you have heard of Matthew before? Got the first book of the Gospels in the New Testament, doesn't he? With God's inspiration. What kind of difference can a day make? Absolutely, you should pray when you go to bed. That's very good. Makes a difference what kind of day you had and the kind you're going to have the next day. By the way, the Bible says we should come to Him as a child, right? And listen, because childlike faith is amazing. It doesn't say what can't be done. It shows what can be done. Here's another thing. Happened in the book of John chapter 4. He came to the city of Samaria called Sychar, near the plot of ground which Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there. Now remember, you have Galilee and you have Judea, where Jerusalem is. Not much good. We talked about last week, people were supposed to come out of Galilee, up around Nazareth and all. Remember that? That's what a bunch of them said. Even Nathaniel said, can a prophet come out of Galilee? Are you kidding me? You know, but worse than that is this middle place, Samaria. The mixed breed. The mixed breed. Half Jew, half whatever, just mixed all over the place. From when they were in exile. They stayed, and that's who's there. And so that's who's sitting there. And now they come to the 6th hour. You know when the 6th hour is? 12 noon. Now in the desert, 12 noon, if you come to the South 100 or plus years ago, in the middle of the day, Yankees would come down and think that people in the South were lazy. You know why? In the middle of the day, their work was done. Nobody was crazy enough to work out in the heat of the day when you can get up at daylight or before daylight and get so much more done and make your day and move forward, you know. The heat of the day in noon, everybody's at home doing what? Having lunch, fixing to take their siesta or whatever they're doing. But a woman of Samaria came to draw water at a time when nobody else was going to be at the main well of the town, outside of the city. Jesus said to her, give me something to drink. The disciples had gone on to buy food, and the woman of Samaria, who didn't want to see anybody, didn't want to be seen by anybody, and it wasn't proper to even talk to a woman over here, and this guy's talking to me. I don't get into this kind of stuff, she's thinking, right? It's a new day. She's been doing this for a while. I don't get into this kind of stuff. She said to him, how is it that you, being a Jew, I know how y'all think about us Samaritans, right? And we found out last week, how did people think about Jesus being from Galilee and all that other kind of stuff? He's one of them. And she's thinking, I'm one of them. Well, she's talking to the right guy because he knows what it's like to be one of them people, you know, the ones from the other side of the, wherever, the wrong side of the tracks, whatever it wants to be. Says, how is it that you, being a Jew, ask a drink from me, a Samaritan woman? For Jews have no dealings with Samaritans. And Jesus answered and says, if you knew the gift of God and who it is that says to you, give me a drink, then you would have asked him and he would have given you living water. We're going to find out that her life wasn't so good. How many of us can be breathing and not have a good life? And she woke up that day in that state, and how did she plan to go to bed? In that same state. But here's a new day, and she can waste it, or she can receive this living water. The woman said to him, sir, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where are you going to get that living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us this well and drank it from himself, as well as his sons and livestock? Jesus answered and said to her again, whoever drinks this water, drinks of this water will thirst again. But he who drinks of the water that I shall give will never thirst. But the water that I shall give will become in him a fountain of water springing into everlasting life. He says, I've got something. Remember, in the desert, water is life. In the desert, water is life. You can see from one side of the highway in Israel to the other where they irrigate big, beautiful plants like so green they're purple. And if you look on the other side of the highway where they don't irrigate, rocks. A few goats, sheep out there, but brown. Nothing green on that side of the road. The difference is water. So what he's saying is, I've got water that is everlasting life. I've got life that is everlasting. You're just trying to get by for the moment. He says, whoever drinks the water I give will never thirst, but the water that I shall give will become in him a fountain of water springing into everlasting life. The woman says, sir, give me this water that I may not thirst or have to come over here and draw. Remember, they didn't turn a faucet. They dropped a bucket down and then pulled up. Jesus said to her, go call your husband and come here. The woman said, I have no husband. Jesus said, you have said well, you have no husband. We talked this morning about one of the things that we don't want to do is admit to anybody we have a problem. And this lady has a problem. How do I know that? Because the Bible explains the problem. Look what it says. It says, for you have had 5 husbands, and the one that you have now is not your husband, in that you have truly spoken. At that time, the woman who was divorced was kind of outcast. Pretty much outcast. So in my mind, this lady was either very attractive or very rich, or both. The first 5 husbands gave her their name. This guy won't. So either her money's gone or her attractiveness is gone at this point. Right? Does she have a problem? She's coming to the well at noon, where she doesn't have to run into anybody else and put up with their disdain of her or disapproval and all that kind of stuff. That's where she's at. Again, that morning, she was planning a normal day of not abundant life. Survive. Just get through. She said, sir, I perceive you're a prophet. You know all this about me? We've never met. I've got this figured out. And so she starts wanting to talk about religion. A lot of people don't want to talk about religion, and I don't blame them. They're looking for the auditor, the religious auditor. Did you do this right? Did you do that right? And all those kind of things. What is the faith, the Christian faith? In a nutshell, what is it? It's having a proper relationship with the Lord Jesus. Amen? That's it. Did a celebration of a wedding yesterday, and we talked about the fact that just a few words are spoken, and these two are to be bound for the rest of their lives. Now that's ignored often these days, and things can happen, and all kind of stuff can go on, but that's how it was the ideal of it. Just a few words, and what can happen? A relationship to last the rest of their life. Did you know with just a few words we can enter into a relationship with Jesus Christ? And that's where she's at right now. Is she going to accept what's being offered to her, or is she going to refuse it? It's going to come from words. And y'all know what the words are. Romans 10:9 says, if you confess with your mouth, He's your Lord, the one that you will follow the rest of your life, your first authority. And believe in your heart, it has to be a heartfelt thing, otherwise it's just some religious incantation. but believe in your heart God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. That's the proper relationship. And he says, when you make yourself that follower, that servant, I make you my friend. And that's the relationship that we get. And his Spirit comes to dwell in us. So she wanted to talk about religion, and Jesus is not going to really talk about religion. That's what? A diversion to the facts. What happens in our religions? We get very proud of our religious ideas. And I'm not talking about the one that counts. I'm talking about things that aren't salvation issues. Things that won't get us to heaven or keep us out of heaven. One thing will get us to heaven. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father except by me. That's what Jesus said, right? He didn't say all these other kind of things. Is there still wrong? Yeah, we said we would follow him. If we don't follow him, then we're on the wrong path. Amen? If you've got a map that says this is how you get to Toledo Bend, and you go that way, are you wrong in your directions to get to Toledo Bend? How many of us like to be told we're wrong? How many of us will drive 100 miles out of the way to prove that we weren't really wrong, we were just taking the scenic route? Guys? You know? But the truth is, that's what wrong is not following Jesus. So can Christians be wrong when we're not following Jesus? We're wrong. Amen? What's great is our wonderful GPS, God's powerful Spirit, tells us time to recalculate and get back on the right track. Out of love. Out of guiding direction. Anyway, so he wasn't going to do that. She said, our fathers worshipped on this mountain, but you Jews say you got to worship in Jerusalem. Jesus said, woman, believe me, the hour is coming when it won't be about a mountain. Who's going to be about it? It's through Jesus and what he did to open a way for us to be into heaven. You worship what you do not know. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. Where did Jesus come from? Through the Jewish people. We were talking last Thursday. It is amazing how a tiny little speck on the globe, Raven brought it out this morning, the whole world doesn't know what to do with it. The United Nations last week made decrees against this tiny little speck on the globe. Why? Why is it still significant after all these thousands of years? If you want a testament to the reality of God, this tiny little speck, 1/3 the size of Florida, just really makes the rest of the world nervous. To the point where they don't know what to do. They try to be powerful, and they've tried to wipe it out many times, and it just hasn't happened. The hour is coming, and now is, when true worship will worship the Father in spirit and in truth, and the Father is seeking such to worship him. What happened? The woman says, well, I know this Messiah guy is coming. Jesus looks back and says, right? I who speak to you am he. And it kept going. She left her water pot and she went back to the city. Remember the city? Why is she out there alone? She doesn't want to be seen. Now she's going to be seen. And she's going to tell them what? Come see a man who has told me everything I ever did. Could this be? She didn't tell him, this is the Messiah. She said, could this be the Messiah? She's smart. And she's been a survivor a long time. What's the best way to get somebody to do something? Make them think it was their idea. And that's what she's doing. Could this be the Messiah? And they went out of the city and came to him. The disciples came back about the food. He says, I got something better than that, guys. And he goes on down, and just to make a long story short, he said, and many of the Samaritans in that city believed in him because of the word. The woman who testified said, he told me all I ever did. This woman walked up, a lady who was disdained, and they figured of low character and low quality and all that. By the end of the day, the single day, she's a preacher. She's bringing people to the Lord. She's showing them how to be saved. She's an evangelist. In what period of time? Just one day. What kind of difference can a day make? Here's a guy who was blind at birth. He woke up blind. He had been blind every day the day before. What was his expectations of the next day? Darkness. More darkness. Boy, if we only could write a song like I Saw the Light or something like that and then play it at the beginning of the service. Wouldn't that be neat? Wouldn't it be great if we see the light brighter in 2017 than we ever have before? That would be awesome, wouldn't it? Maybe we could pray for that. And they ask him, says, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? You can't touch us as long as we're good. He must have done something really bad. Why do we say stuff like that? We hear of somebody who gets killed in a car wreck or something. They say, did they have their seatbelt on? Were they drinking? Were they this? Why do we say that? We want to insulate ourselves from that danger. Right? There is a safe place to insulate ourselves from the danger of sin. His name is Jesus. It's the only one. We can't achieve it. It's something that comes from Him. It's a gift of God. Jesus said, neither. Don't go there. Blaming somebody is not going to fix this. This is the situation. He says, but because he is blind, the works of God will be revealed in him. Can you imagine that? If you get to heaven, you find this guy. Hey, you were blind all that time, and then Jesus used you just to glorify himself. Aren't you still mad at Jesus? Let me ask you, if this guy was 30, 40 years old, which would have been old back then, right? Said, can you imagine finding? Jesus misused you, didn't he? Letting you be blind your time on the earth. I could almost see him laugh at us. Are you kidding me? 30 or 40 years compared to eternity? And God gave me an assignment that was going to help people who were spiritually blind see? Are you kidding me? God used me as a soldier. He counted me as his champion to do this kind of thing. What an amazing thing that God would do. He picked me. Whole different situation. But anyway, what happens? He says, I must work the works of him who sent me while this day. The night is coming when no one can work. He says, I'm here. We don't have a lot of time. Let's get on with it. And so he moves on. I like this. How many times did Jesus do this thing the same way? So this time, what does he do? Why does he do that? Why does he change his techniques? Because what would we worship? The techniques instead of the one who does them. The real power. Look what he did this time. He spat on the ground and made clay of the saliva and anointed the eyes of the blind man. Have y'all been to your optometrist lately? Was saliva involved? No. But what did he do this time? He didn't do it other times when he healed the blind, but he did it this time. He anointed the eyes of the blind man. He said, go to the pool of Siloam, which means sent. And he went, he washed, he came back, seeing. Once was blind, but now I see. And the neighbors and all who had seen him says, hey, isn't this the guy who sat and begged? Some others said, he is like him. And he says, this is me. This is me. And they said, well, how are your eyes open? He says, a man named Jesus made clay and anointed my eyes. Said, go over there and wash. And he says, I did what he said. What happens when you do what God says? This is the biggest, if you want to live in a victorious life, here's the technique. Do what God says. Because the victory is not over all the circumstances around. The victory is over who? Who gets me on the wrong path? I can blame a lot of people, but who ultimately gets me on the wrong path? Self does. Who's the one that tells me the right path? And that's obedience. So the victory is over self when I go on the right path. Does that make sense? And so what did he do? He obeyed, and what did he get? He could see. They said, where is he? He says, I don't know. Kind of blind when I walked away, you know. And they brought him, who was formerly blind, to the Pharisees, the religious auditors. Did he do this properly? Because it was on the Sabbath. Don't do a good deed on the Sabbath. Is that crazy or what? What do we call practicing religion without love? Just meanness. It's just mean. And so here he is. He's doing the right thing. And he explained to him what happened. He put clay on my eyes. I washed. I see. Then the man, they said, this man is not for God because he worked on the Sabbath. He's doing good things on the Sabbath. It doesn't match our bureaucratic form. He didn't have a permit, as Reverend said, to do the good stuff. They said, what do you say about him? Because he opened your eyes. He's a prophet? And they didn't believe, and they kept on. And they got his parents in. Come here and tell us about this. Can you imagine how far they're going in this audit? They're going all the way back, checking all the records. Was he really blind? All that kind of stuff. His parents says, we know this is our son. We know that he's born blind. But by what means he sees now, we don't know. And they said that because they'd kick him out of the synagogue. They'd kick him out of church for their son being healed. Practicing religion without love means. And what does he keep going? So they called the man was blind and says, give God the glory. We know that man, Jesus, is a sinner. We know that he's not. If he was a sinner, he wouldn't have been the perfect lamb, the lamb without blemish, who could be sacrificed and be the perfect substitute for us, so we wouldn't have to die for our sins. So we know that. He answers and says, well, whether he's a sinner or not, I do know this. One thing I know, I was blind and now I see. Boom. That morning, how did he wake up? Blind. That evening, what could he do? See? And now what's he doing? He's a preacher. He's giving his testimony. He's not trying to explain his testimony. He's just telling his testimony. He's not embellishing his testimony. He says, this is what happened. What does God call us to do? Share our testimony. This is what happened. This is what I saw this Jesus do. And that's enough. Because then the Holy Spirit can show it to others and they can make a decision. You probably heard about another guy. You remember Saul? Woke up one morning, breathing fire just about. Look what it says. Still breathing threats and murder against the disciples. He'd helped kill Stephen. They had St. Stephen's Day the day after Christmas. Amazing guy. He was a deacon. He was highly qualified so he could wait tables. That was his job. His first job as a deacon was waiting tables for widows who spoke different languages. Right? But God elevated him and God used him in many ways. And then all of a sudden, they're killing him. They're throwing big rocks at him to try to kill him. And he looks out at the ones that are killing him. He says, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Who was he like then? He was like Jesus Christ. So Saul, he's really empowered. He was conspiring in that he held the coats so the guys wouldn't get too sweaty as they threw those rocks to kill Stephen. And he's got more murder and stuff going out. He got letters to go to the synagogues of Damascus, and he's going to go practice religion without love because he's a what? Religious auditor. And on that morning of that day, he's an amazing religious guy. He's in the leadership. He's moving on up. What happened during the day? You know, he was struck blind. And Jesus said, why are you persecuting me? By the end of the day, instead of being so sure of himself, now what's he thinking? Everything I ever knew is upside down. That day wasn't wasted, was it? 3 days later, he goes to a place, and a guy named Ananias prays for him and says, I was scared to talk to you, but here I am. And says some scales fell off his eyes, and he was blind, but now he could see. He wasn't blind with his eyesight a few days ago, but he was just as blind because he didn't see the truth around him, even though he studied it day and night. And it just made him meaner. I'll show you another day. This is an interesting day. Then God said, let the waters abound with an abundance of living creatures. Let the birds fly above the earth across the face of the firmament in the heavens. And so God created great sea creatures and everything that moves. And when the waters abounded according to their kind, and every winged bird according to his kind, God saw that it was good. God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters and the seas, let the birds multiply on the earth. So the evening and the morning of the fifth day, one day God filled up the oceans. How many guys have spent a lot of time trying to empty the waters of the living creatures that are in there? Have y'all tried to do that? A little pole, a little hook, right? God filled them in one day, didn't they? The birds in the air, how many of us have tried to knock those birds out of the air? Don't even come close. I don't know if you go outside, they're laughing at us when they're flying over us. Y'all hear them as they fly in their flocks and all that kind of stuff? God filled it all in one day. Here's another day, the sixth day. Then God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature according to its kind, cattle and creeping thing and the beasts of the earth, each according to its kind. It was so. And God made the beasts of the earth according to his kind, cattle according to his kind, and everything that creeps on the earth according to his kind. And God saw that it was good. Same day. Then God said, let us make man in our image according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, over the cattle, over the earth, and everything that creepeth and creeps on the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created male and female. He created them. God blessed them, said to them, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth, subdue it, have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. And God says, see, I've given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of the earth, every tree whose fruit yields, to you it shall be good. Also every beast of the earth, to every bird of the air, to everything that creeps on the earth, in which there is life, I've given every green herb of food to. God saw everything He had made, and indeed it was very good. Very good. So the evening and the morning were the sixth day. As a young man, being taught evolution and knowing the creation story, I used to try to put them together. Maybe a day was as 8,000 years and all that kind of stuff. And it hit me not long ago. If He's God, why did He take Him 6 days to create everything? One day He said, let there be what? The cosmos, the heavens and the earth. So why did He go 6 days? He did 6 days to do what? Show us. What did He make before He made us? A place for us to walk, some light for us to see, water for us to drink, right? And so on and so forth, the animals, the beasts, the fish, and all that. And finally He made man. He said, this is very good. One day. He could have done it like that, but what was He doing? He was revealing to us, I love you so much. I'm not going to put you out there unequipped. You're going to have everything. And He made you the pinnacle, the most loved of His creations. And then He gave us the choice to love Him back or not. But one day He created man. And you know it's going to come down to an hour? Because one day it's going to happen. Wherefore we don't know the hour when the Lord is coming back. It won't be a whole day. Right? The hour that the Lord comes back, we don't know when He's coming back, do we? Let's go back to the first verses we talked about. Look what it says. As God's partners, we beg you not to accept this gift of God's kindness and then ignore it. Don't get saved and get over it. Don't get saved and get so distracted that instead of looking to the answer, we're trying to fix the problems that were bigger than us to start with. Right? That will lead us into a place of despair. At just the right time, I helped you. On the day of salvation, I helped you. Indeed, the right time is now. Today is the day of salvation. Listen, that's not just saved for eternity. How many times, Christians, have you been saved from the issues at hand? Even today, God can save us from the issues at hand. But we have to look to who? We have to let go of this and let God have it. Amen? We live in such a way that no one will, listen, we live in such a way no one will stumble because of us and no one will find fault with our ministry. What he's saying is, if we're saved, somebody said there's 2 sermons. If you're not saved, get saved. And if you are saved, live like it. Well, that's what this one has said. If we are saved, we want to live in such a way that we don't cause other people to be confused about what salvation is and cause them to stumble. It's not working for you. Why should I have it? Well, you say you believe in God, but you're not following. Why should I do it? You see what I'm saying? It would cause people to stumble and miss how to get to heaven. And so shame on us if we do that. In everything we do, we show that we are true ministers, that means servants of God. We patiently endure troubles and hardships and the calamities of every kind. Why? Because you've already won. You have salvation. The enemy scares you with shadows of defeat constantly. Amen? As my wife would say, Robert Darrell. Because she knows I get scared of things that come up. I worry about this, I worry about that, and all those kind of things. And yet we have the victory in Jesus Christ. So why do we let those things scare us? What's happening to my faith when I let those anxieties get me? Where are my eyes when I'm letting those anxieties get me? I pray for a blessing in 2017. Not just to be blessed, but to be a blessing to God. I pray Roanoke Baptist Church is a blessing to God. I pray the United States of America is a blessing to God. Amen? I pray that each of us works together to make each other stronger, to be blessings to God Almighty. And then what an amazing 2017 can happen. Because you know there's not just one day in 2017. Like 360 some of them things. And if so much can happen in one, imagine what we could do in a year if we're following our Lord Jesus. If you've never made Him Lord in your life, the one that you follow, please do that. Today is a day of salvation, amen? If you have made Him your Lord, and you've done like I've done way too many times, and you've gotten off the track, got diverted, what's the word, preoccupied with the wrong things, distracted. We need to set our eyes back on Him, amen? And then we will not only have a blessed 2017. We'll be a part of that blessing. So if you've never done these things, today's a great day to start. You can remember the date too. 1-1. 1-1. Let's stand and pray.